You know what the problem with being smart is? You start thinking everyone else is stupid. And that, my friend, is exactly what happened to us. My name is Vork. Well, not really. My actual name sounds like someone gargling rocks while choking on lightning, but for the sake of this story, let us go with Vork. I was a tactical analyst for the Grimaldi Collective, one of the 7 ruling powers in the Andromeda sector. We had ships that could crack planets. We had weapons that made suns look like birthday candles. We had an army so vast that when we moved through space, sensors thought it was a meteor storm. And we thought we were going to roll over Earth like it was nothing. Oh, how wrong we were. It started 6 cycles ago, back when the Collective was mapping out the Sol system for the first time. Yeah, you heard that right. 6 cycles. Your planet had been sitting there, broadcasting radio signals into space like a cosmic billboard that screamed, "We are here, please visit." And nobody bothered to check it out for decades. Why? Because frankly, you looked boring. See, most species join the galactic community one of 2 ways. Either they get uplifted by someone else, or they develop faster than light travel on their own. Humans? You guys were still puttering around your own star system with chemical rockets when we found you. Chemical rockets. Do you know how primitive that is? That is like showing up to a gunfight with a pointy stick. So when High Commander Zelek ordered a survey team to check out this backwater system, everyone groaned. It was the assignment nobody wanted. Go stare at some primitive apes who just figured out how to leave their own atmosphere. Thrilling stuff. The survey team was led by a guy named Prill. Nice fellow. Had 6 eyes, which sounds useful until you realize he could never agree with himself on what he was looking at. Prill took his team, a small science vessel called the Harbinger's Grace, and made the jump to your solar system. They arrived near your moon. Smart move, actually. Far enough away that you would not immediately panic, close enough to get good scans. They spent 2 days just watching your satellites spin around, watching your space station drift by, watching your planet turn, and they laughed. I heard the recording later. Prill was practically in tears. They still use combustion engines, he wheezed between fits of laughter. They burn fuel to make things move. They have not even figured out basic fusion containment. His science officer, a methodical sort named Tress, was more measured. Their technology is approximately 800 years behind standard integration level, she reported. However, their population is unusually large for a pre-contact species. 7.9 billion individuals. Prill stopped laughing. 7.9 billion? On one planet? How have they not killed each other yet? Oh, they try, Tress replied dryly. Constantly, from what I am seeing. Their information networks are filled with conflicts. They have divided themselves into approximately 196 separate territorial groups, and those groups argue about everything: religion, resources, invisible lines they drew on maps. Who makes better food? They once had a war that started because someone got shot, and it pulled in dozens of their nations. Sounds unstable, Prill muttered. Extremely, Tress agreed. But also resilient. They have survived multiple extinction-level events. They have built civilizations, watched them fall, and built new ones on top of the rubble. They are aggressive, fractious, and apparently incapable of unity for more than brief periods. Prill transmitted all this back to High Command with a recommendation. Avoid. The system had minimal strategic value, and the inhabitants were too primitive to pose any threat, but too numerous to easily control if they proved troublesome. Better to wait another century or 2, let them develop proper technology, then make contact when they were more reasonable. The High Commander read the report, thought about it for maybe 5 seconds, and said, "No." Why? Because humans had something we needed. Your planet, this little ball of water and dirt you call Earth, sat at the perfect location, right on the edge of a major transit lane. If we controlled your system, we could cut travel time between the core worlds and the frontier by 30%. 30%. Do you know how much money that represents? And so the collective voted. It was not even close. 15 voices for invasion. 2 against. Abstentions did not matter. And just like that, your planet went from ignored backwater to target. I was in the strategy room when they started planning the operation. The room was huge, shaped like an amphitheater, with holographic displays floating everywhere, ship positions, resource allocations, and timelines. At the center was High Commander Zelek himself, all 4 of his arms crossed as he stared at the rotating image of Earth. Initial assessment, he barked. Admiral Cross, our fleet commander, stepped forward. He was old, scarred, mean. The kind of soldier who had fought in 30 campaigns and won 29 of them. The one he lost still gave him nightmares. Target planet has no orbital defense grid, he began. No weapon satellites. No shield generators. Their military is entirely surface-based, using kinetic and chemical weapons. Their most powerful explosive devices are fusion bombs, but they are bulky and slow to deploy. Air Force? Zelek asked. Primitive atmospheric craft. Fast for their tech level, but useless in space. They would not even scratch our shields. Navy? Water-based vessels. Again, completely irrelevant to orbital assault. Zelek nodded slowly. So what you are telling me is that we can park our fleet in orbit and they cannot touch us. Correct, High Commander. And how long would it take to neutralize their resistance? Cross smiled. It was not a nice smile. If we commit the full 3rd Fleet, 72 hours, maybe less. We hit their command centers, knock out their communications, destroy their military bases. After that, it is just cleanup. They will fold. I remember sitting there listening to this and feeling uneasy. Something about it felt too easy. I raised my hand. Zelek noticed. Analyst Vork, he said. You have something to add? I stood up. All eyes turned to me. Great. High Commander, I have reviewed the survey data. Something bothers me. Go on. The humans are fractured, yes. They fight among themselves constantly. But they also have a pattern. When faced with an external threat, they unify. Temporarily, but effectively. They have done it repeatedly throughout their history. Cross scoffed. They have never faced a threat like us. True, I admitted. But they also have an unusual approach to warfare. They do not fight clean. They do not follow the standard strategic models. In fact, looking at their history, they have a disturbing tendency to win fights they should lose. Examples, Zelek demanded. I pulled up data on the holo display. 300 years ago, a small group of humans fought off one of the largest empires on their planet. They used guerrilla tactics, asymmetric warfare, and stubbornness. 200 years ago, a massive invasion force tried to conquer a frozen portion of their planet during winter. The humans let the cold do most of the work. 100 years ago, they fought 2 massive global wars that killed millions, but they kept going. They rebuilt. They adapted. So they are survivors, Cross said dismissively. That does not make them dangerous to us. Maybe not, I said slowly. But it makes them unpredictable, and unpredictable is dangerous. Zelek considered this. For a moment I thought he might actually listen. Then he waved his hand. Your concern is noted, Analyst Vork. But we have faced unpredictable enemies before. We always win. This will be no different. The vote was called. Operation Thunderfall was approved. We had 6 weeks to prepare. 6 weeks to gather ships, supplies, troops. The 3rd Fleet was massive. 200 warships, ranging from small destroyers to the flagship, the Eternal Judgment, a dreadnought so big it had its own gravitational field. 50,000 soldiers. Drop ships. Siege equipment. Enough firepower to glass a continent. During those 6 weeks, I kept digging into human history. I could not help myself. Something about them fascinated me. They were so violent, yet so creative, so divided, yet capable of incredible cooperation. They had art, music, stories that spanned thousands of years. But they had philosophy. They had ethics, even if they did not always follow them. And they had something else, something that kept showing up in their military history, a concept they called defense in depth. The idea that you do not meet your enemy at the border. You let them in. You make them think they are winning. And then you cut them off, surround them, and destroy them. I wrote a second report, sent it directly to Zellick. In it, I outlined my concerns. I noted the patterns. I suggested that maybe, just maybe, we should approach this differently, open with diplomacy instead of guns, or at least scout more thoroughly before committing. He never responded. The fleet launched on schedule. I was assigned to the Eternal Judgment, working in the Tactical Operations Center. My job was to monitor the battle, analyze enemy movements, and provide real-time recommendations. The jump to Earth took 3 days. When we arrived, I will admit, the sight was impressive. Hundreds of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel all at once, appearing in a perfect formation above the moon. The sunlight glinted off our hulls. Our weapons charged. Our shields hummed with power. We were gods descending from heaven. Admiral Cross opened a channel to Earth, broadcasting on every frequency we could detect. His message was simple. People of Earth, you are now subjects of the Grimaldi Collective. Surrender your planet, and you will be integrated peacefully. Resist, and you will be pacified by force. You have 1 rotation of your planet to decide. Then we waited. For 6 hours, nothing happened. Radio silence. Their satellites kept spinning. Their space station kept drifting. It was like we were not even there. Then, finally, a response came through. It's a single transmission. Audio only. The voice was male, calm, almost bored. Yeah, hi, this is Earth. Got your message. It's a couple of things. First, we do not really do the whole surrender thing. Not really our style. Second, you should probably know you just made the biggest mistake of your extremely long lives. Third, good luck. You are going to need it. The line went dead. Cross looked at the communications officer. Was that official? Did that come from their government? Unknown, sir. The signal bounced through 17 relays. Could have come from anywhere. Zellick, who was watching from his command throne, laughed. Brave words from primitives. Admiral, begin the operation. And that is when things started going wrong. The first wave went in exactly as planned. 40 drop ships, loaded with assault troops, screaming down through the atmosphere towards 6 major population centers. We picked targets carefully. Military bases, government buildings, communication hubs, standard pacification doctrine. Hit them hard, hit them fast, make them realize resistance is futile. Except the humans were not there. I watched the feed from Dropship 7 as it approached what our intelligence said was a major military installation in the northern continent. A big place. Airfields. Barracks. Vehicle depots. Should have been crawling with soldiers. It was empty. Not damaged. Not destroyed. Just empty. Like everyone got up and left. Dropship 7 to command, the pilot reported, and I could hear the confusion in his voice. Target site is abandoned. No personnel. No vehicles. No equipment. Looks like they evacuated. He confirmed. Came responses from dropships 3, 12, 15, 22. All the same. Empty buildings. Ghost towns. Entire military bases just gone. Admiral Cross frowned. Where did they go? I pulled up thermal scans of the planet. And then I saw it. Heat signatures. Thousands of them. But they were not where we expected. They were scattered. Hidden. Underground. In the mountains. In cities. Everywhere and nowhere. Sir, I said slowly, I think they knew we were coming. Impossible, Cross snapped. How could they know? We maintained communication silence. We approached from the dark side of their moon. There is no way they detected us. Then explain the empty bases, I shot back. Before he could answer, Dropship 7 exploded. Just like that. 1 second it was hovering over the empty military base. The next it was a fireball tumbling out of the sky. 20 soldiers dead in an instant. Contact, contact. Another pilot screamed, taking fire from multiple positions. They are in the buildings. They are everywhere. But the tactical display lit up like a festival. Red markers appeared all over the map, not from military bases, from apartment buildings, office towers, warehouses, parking structures. The humans had not abandoned their cities. They had turned them into fortresses, and they were fighting with weapons we did not know they had. Sir, these are not kinetic rounds, a weapons analyst reported, his voice climbing an octave. These are energy weapons, plasma-based, similar to our own small arms. That is impossible, Cross repeated. He seemed to like that word. But it was happening. Drop ships started falling out of the sky. Not all of them. We still had superior firepower, superior armor, but enough to make things messy. Enough to make us bleed. Pull back the drop ships, Zellick ordered. Recalculate. We go to orbital bombardment. Target their weapon positions. Here is where things got really interesting. We fired. The Eternal Judgment alone carried enough firepower to level a continent. We targeted the areas where the ground fire was heaviest. Precision strikes. Surgical. The kind of thing that should have ended the fight right there. Except our shots never landed. I am not saying they missed. I am saying they never reached the ground. Something intercepted them. Mid-flight. Every single one. What just happened? Zellick demanded, standing up from his throne. Analyzing, I said, fingers flying over my console. The data made no sense. Our shots had been stopped by some kind of energy field. Not a shield. Shields have a signature we could detect. This was something else. Something that bent the energy around and away, dissipating it harmlessly into the atmosphere. They have planetary defense, I said quietly. They lied. Or we missed it. Or they hid it really, really well. Find it, Cross snarled. Find the generators and destroy them. We tried. Oh, we tried. But the humans had learned a thing or two from watching other species fight. They did not put their generators in obvious places. They distributed them. Hundreds of small emitters instead of a few large ones, hidden in cities, in mountains, in the ocean. You could destroy 10 and the field would still hold. Then the human ships showed up. I want to be clear about something. When we arrived, Earth had maybe 20 operational spacecraft, shuttles, cargo haulers, a few experimental craft that barely qualified as military vessels, nothing that could threaten a warship. What came screaming out of your moon, out of your asteroid belt, out of hiding spots all over the solar system were not shuttles. They were warships. Small ones, granted. Frigates mostly. Maybe a dozen destroyers. But they were fast. Insanely fast. And they were not using human technology anymore. Or rather, they were using human technology boosted by something else. Sir, our sensor officer said, and his voice was shaking. Those ships. They are reading as hybrid tech, human hull designs with Krenlic engines, Novian weapons, Talric shields. How is that possible? And that is when I figured it out. That is when all the pieces clicked into place. They knew, I whispered. They have known about us for years. Someone told them. Someone warned them. Cross turned to glare at me. What are you talking about? The radio signals, I said, louder now. Earth has been broadcasting into space for over a century. Everyone assumed they were just noise, random transmissions from a primitive species. But what if they were not random? What if they were bait? Bait for what? For first contact. Think about it. A smart species does not advertise its position unless it wants to be found. The humans wanted someone to come, and when someone did, they watched, they learned, they traded. probably with species we do not even know about, species that wanted to stay off the collective's radar. That is speculation, Cross said, but he did not sound certain anymore. Is it? Then explain the ships. Explain the weapons. Explain the defense grid. You do not build all of that in 6 weeks. This took years. They have been preparing for invasion since before we knew they existed. The human ships hit our flanks. They did not try to engage the Eternal Judgment directly. They were not that stupid. Instead, they went after our support vessels, supply ships, troop carriers, anything without heavy armor, and they fought dirty. Real dirty. They used the debris from the destroyed ships as cover. They fired from behind their own satellites, knowing we would hesitate to shoot through them. They sent unmanned drones on suicide runs just to waste our ammunition. And every time we thought we had them cornered, they would jump, short range faster than light hops, just enough to reposition before we could land a killing blow. It was guerrilla warfare. In space. I did not even know that was possible. Sir, we are taking heavy losses, a damage control officer reported. 3 supply ships destroyed, 2 troop carriers damaged and retreating. The Valiant's Honor has lost engine power and is drifting. How many human ships have we destroyed? Cross demanded. 11 confirmed. And how many do they have left? Pause. Long pause. Unknown, sir. They keep appearing from new locations. Zelek stood up. All 4 of his arms were tense. This is unacceptable. We have 200 ships. They have maybe 50. We should be crushing them. Permission to speak freely? I asked. Denied, Cross snapped. I spoke anyway. We walked into a trap. Everything about this operation was based on faulty intelligence. They are not primitives. They are not unprepared. They have been watching us, learning our tactics, and they built a defense specifically designed to counter our strengths. So what do you suggest? Zelek asked coldly. We leave. Now, before this gets worse. We do not retreat from primitives. They are not primitives. Look at the board. We are losing ships. We have not secured a single objective. Our troops on the ground are pinned down. This is not a battle. This is a slaughter, and we are the ones being slaughtered. The Tactical Operations Center went silent. Everyone was staring at me. You did not talk to the High Commander like that. You especially did not call a battle lost while you still had ships in the field. But I was right. And down deep, they all knew it. Zelek sat back down slowly. Admiral, to get our people out of there, full retreat. We regroup at the rally point and reassess. Cross looked like he wanted to argue. But he was a soldier. He followed orders. All ships, this is Fleet Command. Begin withdrawal operations. Drop ships, extract your troops and return to formation. That is when the humans sprang the second part of their trap. Remember all those thermal signatures I saw earlier? The ones scattered all over the planet? They were not just defensive positions. They were launch sites. Missiles. Thousands of them. Lifting off from every continent. But these were not the primitive chemical rockets from our initial survey. These were advanced, multi-stage weapons. Fast, maneuverable. And they were aimed right at our retreating ships. Evasive maneuvers. Cross shouted. Point defense, engage all incoming. Our ships tried. They really did. Point defense lasers flickered across space, intercepting dozens of missiles. Hundreds. But there were thousands. For every 10 we shot down, 1 got through. And these missiles, they did not just explode. They carried exotic payloads, electromagnetic pulse weapons, nanite swarms, some kind of corrosive agent that ate through hull plating like acid through flesh. The Crimson Wrath, one of our heavy cruisers, took 3 hits in rapid succession. Its shields collapsed. Hull breaches bloomed across its surface. Atmosphere vented into space in frozen clouds. The ship tried to limp away, but another wave of missiles finished it off. Explosion. Debris. Gone. We lost 18 ships in the withdrawal. 18. Out of 200, that might not sound like much. But these were not small patrol boats. These were warships. Each one represented thousands of crew members, years of construction, resources that could not be easily replaced. And we had nothing to show for it. No ground captured. No enemy defeated. No objectives secured. We had been humiliated. The fleet regrouped at the edge of the solar system, licking its wounds. Zelek called an emergency strategy meeting. The mood was grim. "Explain," he said simply, looking at me. I pulled up everything I had compiled. The humans have been planning this for at least a decade, possibly longer. They made contact with other species, ones outside the collective's influence. They traded for technology, adapted it, integrated it with their own designs. They knew we would come eventually, so they prepared. They evacuated their obvious targets. They fortified their cities. They built weapons. They baited us into committing to an attack, then hit us when we were most vulnerable. And the defense grid? Cross asked. Distributed system. Probably designed by the Furlan. They specialize in that kind of technology. The humans bought it, modified it, and hid it. We walked right past it during our initial survey because we were not looking for it. Zelek was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked the question I had been dreading. Can we win? I wanted to lie. I wanted to say yes, of course we can win. We are the Grimaldi Collective. We have vast resources. We can call in reinforcements. We can siege the planet. We can win through attrition. But I did not lie. No, I said. We cannot, not without losses that would cripple us. And even if we did win, what would we gain? A planet full of hostile humans who now have access to advanced technology. We would be fighting insurgencies for generations. The cost would far exceed any benefit. So your recommendation is surrender? Cross asked, his voice dripping with contempt. My recommendation is negotiation. The humans wanted to be noticed. They wanted first contact. They got it. But they also proved they can defend themselves. We do not have to be enemies. We could be trade partners, allies even. They have resources. They have location. And clearly, they have ingenuity. Zelek looked at me for a long time. Then he looked at the tactical display, still showing the carnage around Earth. Then he looked at Cross. Open a channel to Earth, he said quietly. The negotiation took 6 days. 6 days of back and forth, posturing, demands, compromises. The humans were represented by someone named Marcus Cole, former military, according to our intelligence, now some kind of diplomat. He was pleasant, professional, and absolutely ruthless in the negotiations. The final agreement was simple. The collective would recognize Earth as a sovereign power. We would establish trade relations. We would share certain technologies in exchange for access to their system for peaceful transit. And most importantly, we would never attempt to invade them again. In return, they would not press their advantage. They would not attack our damaged ships. They would release the prisoners they had taken from our downed vessels. They would play nice. It was a humiliation dressed up as a peace treaty. And we took it. I remained on the Eternal Judgment for another week, helping coordinate the withdrawal. On the last day, I received a personal message. It was from Marcus Cole, Analyst Vork. It said, "We intercepted your reports, the ones you sent warning your superiors about us. Thank you for that. If more of your people thought like you, this whole mess could have been avoided. We did not want war. We just wanted to be left alone. But we knew someone would come eventually. So we prepared. Hope you understand. Oh, and if you are ever back in our neighborhood under peaceful circumstances, look me up. First drink is on me." I sat there staring at that message for a long time. Then I started laughing. I could not help it. We had been so sure we were the apex predators. the dominant force, the inevitable conquerors. And we got schooled by a species that still used primitive combustion engines in some of their vehicles. The humans had turned their weakness into bait, their isolation into preparation time, their fractious nature into unpredictability. They had taken everything we thought made them vulnerable and weaponized it against us. They thought Earth was the weak link in the sector. It was not. It was the trap. And we walked right into it. I submitted my final report 3 weeks later. In it, I recommended that humanity be given full status in the galactic community, not as subjects, not as vassals, as equals. Because any species smart enough to outwit the collective, tough enough to fight us off, and wise enough to negotiate when they could have pressed their advantage, that was a species we wanted as friends, not enemies. As the report was approved, humanity got their seat at the table. And I got a promotion. Turns out being right, even when everyone hates you for it, has its benefits. But I never forgot the lesson Earth taught us. Never assume. Never underestimate. And never, ever think that primitive means weak. Because somewhere out there is always someone smarter, tougher, and meaner than you. And if you are lucky, they will be willing to talk before they show you just how outmatched you really are. I still have that message from Marcus Cole saved. I look at it sometimes when I need a reminder. A reminder that the universe is bigger than our assumptions. That intelligence comes in many forms. And that sometimes the best move is to admit you were wrong before it costs you everything. Humanity joined the galactic stage not as conquered subjects, but as respected peers. They never forget the species that tried to invade them, but they also never held a grudge. They traded. They shared. They even fought alongside us when the Vorzan Empire tried to start trouble in the border sectors. And every time I see a human ship in port, every time I hear their language over the comm channels, every time I read about some new innovation they have developed by combining their stubborn creativity with alien technology, I smile. Because we thought we were teaching them their place in the galaxy. Turns out they were teaching us ours. And that lesson, painful as it was, might have been the best thing that ever happened to the collective. We got humbled, we got smart, and we got a powerful ally. All because we made the mistake of thinking Earth was an easy target. The weak link. The sure thing. It was the trap. And honestly, I cannot even be mad about it. That was some beautiful strategic thinking. Humanity. They scared us. They beat us. And then they offered us a beer. That is the kind of species you want watching your back in a fight. So yeah, that is the story of how the Grimaldi Collective learned to respect humans. It cost us 18 ships, thousands of lives, and our pride. But it was worth it. Because now we know. Now everyone knows. You do not mess with Earth. Not unless you want to find out exactly how creative angry primates can be when you threaten their home. And trust me, you really do not want to find out. Take my word for it. I saw it firsthand, and I have absolutely no desire to ever see it again.